She slept with her best friend's husband, unaware he'd been dead for 2 weeks. She didn't know the warmth she felt that night belonged to something cold. This is that story. Sarah and Sharon had been best friends since they were kids. They did everything together. Went to school, started a business, and shared all their secrets. Well, almost all their secrets. Sharon was married to David, a handsome and quiet man. Sarah had always thought David was attractive, but she never said anything because Sharon was her best friend. You don't steal your best friend's husband, right? One afternoon, Sarah and Sharon met at their favorite coffee shop. Sharon was talking excitedly about her husband. David took me to this fancy restaurant last night, Sharon said with a big smile. After 23 years of marriage, he still surprises me. Sarah forced herself to smile, but inside she felt jealous. She had been divorced for 3 years and was lonely. Sometimes, she wondered what it would be like to be with David instead. You're so lucky, Sarah said, trying to sound happy for her friend. You know what? Sharon leaned closer. I think David likes you. He always asks about you when you're not around. Sarah's heart started beating faster. David noticed her? The thought made her feel excited and guilty at the same time. Then, their conversation turned to work. They owned a marketing business together, and they had a big disagreement about a new client. We can't work with them, Sarah said firmly. This company has done bad things. They lied about their medicine making people sick. But they're offering us 3 times our normal payment, Sharon argued. We have bills to pay, Sarah. We have employees to pay. We need this money, so we just ignore what's right for money. Not everyone has rich grandparents like you did, Sharon snapped. Some of us have to make tough choices. This hurt Sarah's feelings because it was partly true. Her grandmother had left her money, which made business decisions easier for her. That's not fair, Sarah said. Isn't it? Sharon grabbed her purse. Maybe we both need some space. I'll handle this client myself. Sharon stood up to leave, then turned back. Maybe you should decide if you want to be my business partner, or just judge everything I do. You can't do both. Sarah watched her best friend walk away. They had never fought this badly before. She sat alone in the coffee shop for an hour, feeling sad and angry. But deep down, a small part of her thought that maybe this fight would give her a chance to get closer to David. That thought scared her. It had been a week since the fight with Sharon. Sarah felt terrible about it, but she was too proud to apologize first. Her apartment felt lonely and quiet. It was raining hard outside when someone rang her doorbell at 10:30 at night. Sarah was surprised. Nobody visited this late, especially in bad weather. She looked through the peephole and gasped. It was David. He looked terrible. His hair was wet from the rain, his clothes were messy, and he looked very sad. Sarah, he called through the door. Please, I need someone to talk to. Sarah knew she shouldn't let him in. He was Sharon's husband, and they were fighting. But he sounded so hurt that she opened the door anyway. David, what's wrong? Is Sharon okay? He came inside without asking, and suddenly the apartment felt very cold. Sarah shivered and pulled her robe tighter. Sharon is fine, he said, but his voice sounded broken. Well, physically fine. Up close, David looked even worse. He had dark circles under his eyes and looked like he had lost weight. You look terrible, Sarah said. Let me get you a towel and something to drink. She poured 2 glasses of wine. When she came back, David was standing by her window, looking out at the storm. Nice view, he said quietly. Sometimes I think about what it would be like to just disappear. This scared Sarah. David, what's wrong? He took the wine but didn't drink it. Have you ever felt like you're invisible? Like you're there, but nobody really sees you? Sarah knew exactly what he meant. She had felt invisible for years, in her marriage, next to Sharon, and especially around David. Tell me what happened, she said gently. David looked at her with such pain in his eyes that it almost made her cry. Sharon is cheating on me. Sarah couldn't believe it. That's impossible. Sharon loves you. She was just telling me how perfect your marriage is. Perfect? David laughed bitterly. She's been seeing someone from her gym for months. I found their text messages. Sarah's mind was spinning. Sharon cheating? It didn't sound like her friend at all. But David looked so hurt that she believed him. I talked to her about it tonight, David continued. She didn't even deny it. She said our marriage has been dead for years. She only stays with me out of habit. David, I'm so sorry, Sarah said, though the words didn't feel like enough. She set him like a ghost in our house. That she forgets him there. David's hands were shaking. Maybe she's right. Maybe I really am disappearing. Without thinking, Sarah reached out and touched his face. His skin was ice cold, but he leaned into her touch like he needed it desperately. You're not invisible to me, she whispered. The moment she said it, something changed between them. David looked at her with need and desire, like a drowning man who had found someone to save him. "Sarah," he said her name like it was a question. She should have stopped right there. Should have called Sharon, should have been a good friend. Instead, she moved closer to him. "I've felt invisible too," she said softly. When he kissed her, it was desperate and hungry. His hands were in her hair, and she could feel him shaking. The kiss tasted like rain and sadness, and something she had wanted for 15 years. "This is wrong," she said against his lips. "Everything is wrong," he replied. "Everything has been wrong for so long." His skin was ice cold, but she couldn't pull away. All the feelings she had buried for 15 years came flooding out like a broken dam. They made love that night, first on the couch, then in her bedroom while the storm raged outside. His touch sent shivers through her body, though she noticed he never seemed to warm up no matter how close they were. There were other strange things too. Shadows seemed to move on their own. Her breath came out in little clouds, even though the apartment should have been warm. Sometimes David's eyes seemed to look through her instead of at her. But Sarah ignored these weird signs. She was too caught up in finally having what she had wanted for so long. As morning came, she fell asleep in David's arms. His skin was still cold against her back, and his last words echoed in her dreams. "Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for making me feel real again." Those words should have sounded romantic. Instead, they felt like a warning she was too happy to understand. Sarah woke up alone. Not just alone like when someone gets up early, completely alone. The bed next to her was cold and looked like nobody had ever slept in it. She sat up quickly, her heart pounding. "David?" she called out. No answer. The bathroom was empty. There were no clothes on the floor, no sign that anyone else had been there. Sarah ran to the living room, looking for proof that last night had really happened. But everything looked normal. She found 2 wine glasses in the sink, but only one had her lipstick on it. The wine bottle they had opened was still sealed. Her hands shook as she looked at the bottle. This was impossible. She remembered drinking wine with David, and remembered the taste of it when they kissed. But the bottle looked like it had never been opened. Her phone buzzed with a text from the building manager. "Some people said their apartments got very cold last night. Did you have any problems with heating?" "Cold." Yes, David had been very cold. Not just cool, but freezing like ice. She had thought it was because of the rain, but now she wasn't sure. Someone knocked on her door. It was Mrs. Chun, the old lady from across the hall. "Good morning, dear," Mrs. Chun said cheerfully. "I made too much soup. Would you like some?" "That's very nice. Thank you. I heard voices from your apartment last night. I hope I wasn't being nosy, but the walls are thin. Did you have a visitor?" "I didn't see anyone come up to this floor." Sarah's blood felt like ice water. "You didn't see anyone?" "No, dear. I was sitting by my door knitting until very late. I can't sleep well anymore. I see everyone who comes and goes. But around 10:30, I heard a man's voice through your door. He sounded very sad. I almost knocked to make sure you were okay." The soup bowl almost fell from Sarah's hands. "You heard a man, but didn't see him come in?" Mrs. Chun looked worried. "Are you feeling all right? You look very pale." After Mrs. Chun left, Sarah sat on her couch, the same couch where she thought she had kissed David. But the cushions looked perfectly normal, like no one had been on them. Maybe she had dreamed it all. Maybe the stress from fighting with Sharon had made her imagine everything. But her body felt sore, like she really had been with someone. And there were small bruises on her wrists that looked like fingerprints. Sarah went to the bathroom mirror to look at the bruises more closely. They were real, but how could they be real if David had never been there? In the mirror, she thought she saw another face behind hers for just a second, David's face, pale and sad. But when she turned around, no one was there. The phone rang, and she nearly jumped out of her skin. It was Sharon calling. Sarah felt sick with guilt. How could she face her best friend after what she had done? But if it had all been a dream, then what was there to feel guilty about? "Hello." Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "Sarah, thank God you answered. I was worried when you didn't reply to my texts." Sharon sounded terrible, like she had been crying. "I know we had a fight, but I need you. Something awful has happened." Sarah's world started spinning. "What do you mean?" "It's David." Sharon's voice broke completely. "Sarah, David is dead." The phone slipped out of Sarah's hands and fell to the floor. But she could still hear Sharon's voice. "The funeral is tomorrow. I know we're fighting, but please, I can't do this alone. I need my best friend." Sarah stared at herself in the bathroom mirror. For a moment, she saw David's face instead of her own. The same David who had kissed her and held her just hours ago. But David had been dead before he ever came to her door. Sarah screamed. Sarah drove to the cemetery 3 times, but couldn't make herself get out of the car. How do you comfort your best friend when you think you slept with her dead husband? How do you say I'm sorry for your loss when you're not even sure if you're crazy? She sat in her car, watching people in black clothes walk to David's grave. Through her windshield, she could see Sharon standing next to a big wooden coffin. Sharon looked broken, like someone had torn her heart out. Sarah's phone kept buzzing with messages from Sharon. Sarah, where are you? I need you. The funeral starts at 2 p.m. Please come. I don't understand why you're not here. We can fix our fight later. Are you mad at me? Why won't you come? Each message made Sarah feel worse. She had typed many replies but deleted them all. How do you explain that you're not coming to your best friend's husband's funeral because you think his ghost visited you? As the funeral ended, people started walking back to their cars. Sarah tried to hide in her seat, but then she saw something impossible. David was walking through the crowd of people. He looked exactly like he had 2 nights ago, tall, dark hair, wearing that same messy suit. He walked between the other people like he belonged there, but Sarah noticed that some people seemed to look right through him. Sarah tried to start her car to escape, but her hands were shaking too much. David walked over to her car and got in the passenger seat. The car immediately became freezing cold, and Sarah could see her breath. You didn't come to my funeral, David said calmly. Because you're supposed to be in that box they just buried, Sarah replied, trying to sound braver than she felt. Yes, he agreed. I am. They sat in terrible silence. Sarah looked at David more carefully now. She could see through him a little bit, like he was made of glass. How long have you been dead? She whispered. 2 weeks. A drunk driver hit my car on Route 95. I died right away, didn't even know what happened. 2 weeks, Sarah repeated. That was before her fight with Sharon. Before the night, he came to her apartment. Sharon has been crying every day. She blames herself because we had a fight that morning. Her last words to me were angry ones. Sarah felt sick. What about the affair? The other man you told me about? David's see-through form flickered like a candle. There was no affair. I lied about that. Sarah felt like she had been punched. You lied to me? I'm dead, Sarah. Lying seemed like a small problem compared to that. But Sharon is completely faithful. Always has been. She's probably never even looked at another man. David sounded ashamed. I made up that story because I needed you to feel sorry for me instead of thinking I was crazy. Sarah stared out the windshield, watching Sharon walk away in the distance. Her best friend, loyal, faithful Sharon, who she had been ready to hate because of a dead man's lies. Why me? Sarah asked. If you needed to feel alive, why not go to Sharon? David was quiet for a long time. When Sarah finally looked at him, he looked infinitely sad. Because Sharon really loved me. She would have known something was wrong right away. But you, he paused. You've wanted me for 15 years. You wanted me so much that you ignored everything that didn't make sense. The words hurt because they were true. Sarah had been so desperate to finally have David that she had ignored all the warning signs. I felt so guilty, Sarah whispered. I thought I had betrayed my best friend. You did betray her. Just not the way you think. David's voice was getting fainter. You let your feelings for her husband make you ignore her pain. While she was crying over my death, you were feeling sorry for yourself. I didn't know you were dead. You didn't want to know. It was easier to believe I was the victim, and Sharon was the bad guy because then you could do what you wanted without feeling as guilty. The passenger seat was empty now, but David's words still echoed. She needs her best friend, Sarah. She's always needed her best friend. Will you finally be one? Sarah sat alone in the cemetery parking lot for a long time, crying for the friendship she had almost destroyed and the impossible love that had never been real. When she finally drove home, she didn't see the figure in her rearview mirror, watching her leave with eyes full of unfinished business. Sarah finally went to see Sharon that evening. She stood outside Sharon's house for 10 minutes, holding a bottle of wine and trying to think of what to say. The house looked sad and empty even though the lights were on. It was like someone had taken all the happiness out of it. Sharon opened the door before Sarah could knock. I saw your car, Sharon said quietly. She looked terrible, skinny, with red eyes from crying. She was still wearing the black dress from the funeral. I wasn't sure you would come. I'm sorry, Sarah started to say, but Sharon hugged her tightly. Don't apologize. Just don't leave me alone tonight. I can't handle being alone. They sat in Sharon's living room, which was full of flowers and food from people trying to help. David's things were everywhere. His glasses on the coffee table, his jacket on his chair, even the smell of his cologne still in the air. Sarah felt guilty looking at everything. She had been in this house so many times over the years, but now it felt different because of what she had done. "Tell me about the accident," Sarah said softly, pouring wine for both of them. Sharon curled up on the couch with a blanket. It was 2 weeks ago, on a Thursday night around 11 p.m. David was coming home from his book club. Sarah nodded, though she had never known David went to a book club. It reminded her how little she really knew about him. Some drunk college kid ran a red light going really fast. He hit David's car so hard it flipped over 3 times. Sharon's voice sounded flat and empty. The police said David died right away. They kept saying he didn't suffer, like that was supposed to make me feel better. Sharon. Sarah reached for her friend's hand. You know what the worst part is? The last thing I said to him was fine. Go to your stupid book club. Maybe your book friends will appreciate you more than I do. Sarah felt sick remembering how easily she had believed David's lies about Sharon not loving him. We had been fighting more lately, Sharon continued. About dumb things, money, work schedules. I was stressed about that business deal and taking it out on him. What if he died thinking I didn't love him? He knew you loved him, Sarah said, though the words felt like dust in her mouth. Did he? I was so busy being angry that I wasn't paying attention to him. Sometimes I'd catch him looking at me sadly, like he was trying to remember my face. I thought he was being dramatic, but what if he somehow knew something bad was going to happen? Sarah's chest hurt. She thought about David's ghost admitting there had been no affair, that he had lied to manipulate her feelings. Sharon was torturing herself over imaginary problems, while Sarah carried the weight of real betrayal. You were a good wife, Sarah said firmly. He loved you completely. How can you be sure? You weren't here. You haven't talked to me in weeks. The accusation stung because it was true. Sarah had abandoned her best friend right when Sharon needed her most. I'm here now, Sarah said. And am not leaving. They talked until late, sharing memories of David that showed what a good husband he really was. Every story made Sarah feel worse about what she had done. Around midnight, Sharon fell asleep on the couch. Sarah covered her with a blanket and started cleaning up the wine glasses and tissues. That's when the room suddenly got freezing cold. She can't see you anymore, Sarah whispered to the empty room. Leave her alone. Can I? David's voice came from behind her. Sarah turned and saw him standing by his reading chair, looking more solid than before. What do you want? Sarah kept her voice low, so she wouldn't wake Sharon. The same thing I've always wanted. To feel alive. He moved closer, and the room got even colder. You gave me that, Sarah. For one night, I felt real again. That night was based on lies. Was it? Your feelings were real. The way you've wanted me for 15 years, that was real. Sarah backed away from him, but he followed. Even though she hated what he had done, she could still feel the pull that had drawn her to him. I won't hurt Sharon again. Sharon's asleep. Sharon doesn't have to know. His hand reached for her face, and despite everything, she felt tempted. No. Sarah jerked away. Find someone else to bother. David's expression got dark and scary. I can't touch anyone else the way I can touch you. You opened a door, Sarah, and now I can't close it. What does that mean? Instead of answering, David looked at Sharon sleeping on the couch. She talks to me sometimes. Tells me about her day, asks me to forgive her for our fight. She can't see me, but she feels me here. I think I could make her feel more than that. Sarah realized he was threatening Sharon. Leave her alone. Then don't leave me alone. David started to fade away, but his last words were clear. I'll be waiting for you at home. Don't make me wait too long. Sarah stood shivering in Sharon's living room, watching her best friend sleep peacefully. Sharon had no idea that her dead husband had become something dark and dangerous. Outside, storm clouds were gathering, and Sarah realized that her night with David hadn't ended anything. It had only been the beginning of something much worse. The ghost gets stronger. Sarah barely slept that night. She left Sharon's house early in the morning, but she could feel David following her like a shadow. Every small sound in her building, every change in temperature, made her heart race. By noon, she couldn't stand waiting anymore. She went to the library to research ghosts and spirits. She found an old book about supernatural things that said something scary. When living people get intimate with dead people, they can create a connection that goes beyond death. The ghost becomes attached to the living person and can't move on. The ghost gets stronger by taking energy from the living person. Sarah's hands shook as she read more. These connections get stronger over time. The ghost becomes possessive and demanding. The living person gets tired, feels cold all the time, and feels like someone is always watching them. She closed the book, scared. Every symptom described her perfectly. She hadn't just slept with David's ghost. She had somehow tied him to her, given him a way to stay in the world of the living. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sharon. "Thank you for last night. I slept better than I have in weeks. Having you there made me feel less alone." The message should have made Sarah happy, but instead it scared her. If David could threaten to appear to Sharon, then nowhere was safe. That evening, Sarah tried to protect her apartment. She found instructions online for keeping ghosts away. Putting salt across doorways, burning sage, hanging iron things near windows. It felt silly, but she was desperate. It didn't work. At 11:30 p.m., her bedroom got so cold that frost appeared on the windows. She could see her breath as she sat up in bed, knowing he was there. "Salt won't keep me out." David's voice came from the dark corner by her closet. "Not when you invited me in so willingly." Sarah pulled her blanket up to her chin like a scared child. "I want you to leave. I want you to move on, find peace, whatever ghosts are supposed to do." "What am supposed to do?" He stepped into the moonlight and Sarah gasped. He looked more real than before, more alive, but something was wrong. His skin looked gray, and his eyes reflected light like an animal's eyes. "I'm supposed to rot in the ground while my wife cries herself to sleep. I'm supposed to accept that everything I was just ends because some drunk kid couldn't wait for a green light. That's not fair, but that's how death works." "Is it?" David sat on her bed, and the mattress actually moved under his weight. How could he be solid enough to sit on the bed, but see through at the same time? "I've been learning things," he said casually. "Turns out there are cases of spirits staying in the physical world through intimate connection with living people. Each time we're together, I get stronger, more real." Sarah felt sick. "That's why you came to me. Not because you were hurt, but because you knew I was weak enough to give you what you needed." "I was hurt. That part was true." His hand touched her face, and this time she could feel it like a real person's hand, though it was still ice cold. "But I also knew you had always wanted me. 15 years of hidden desire, Sarah. Do you think I never noticed?" She tried to pull away, but his grip was strong. "You knew. I knew. And I was flattered. You were Sharon's best friend, off limits, forbidden. But now," his thumb traced across her lips, "now everything has changed. Let me go. I don't think you want me to." His other hand slipped under her blanket. "Your body is already responding to me. I can feel your heartbeat, hear your breathing change. Death hasn't made me forget how to read women." Sarah hated herself for the shiver that ran through her. Even knowing what he was, what he had done, her body still wanted him. "This is wrong." Wrong felt pretty good 2 nights ago. His lips touched her neck, and she could feel how unnaturally cold he was. Wrong felt like the most honest thing either of us had done in years. Sarah's willpower crumbled as he kissed the spot below her ear. Her body had been lonely for so long that even this twisted version of desire felt like salvation. They made love desperately, and this time Sarah noticed frightening details. His skin never got warm no matter how close they were. He never breathed hard like living people do. His eyes sometimes seemed to look through her instead of at her. But his touch felt real, his desire felt real, and for those stolen moments, Sarah felt more alive than she had in years. Afterward, as she lay gasping in the freezing air, David traced patterns on her back with fingers that left trails of ice. "Do you feel that?" he asked softly. "Feel what?" "The connection. It's stronger now, deeper. Each time we do this, the bond between us becomes more permanent." Sarah tried to sit up, but she felt incredibly tired. "What do you mean permanent?" "I mean you're mine now, Sarah. Body and soul. And I'm never letting you go." She wanted to fight, to argue, but exhaustion pulled her under like she was drowning. Her last thought was that she felt colder than she ever had in her life, like something important had been drained out of her. When she woke up the next morning, David was gone, but she could feel his presence like a constant whisper in her mind. And when she looked in the bathroom mirror, she thought she saw his reflection standing behind her, smiling with terrible satisfaction. The connection was getting stronger, and Sarah was beginning to understand that she might not be the only one in danger.